All right, this is the Geometry Unit 7, Lesson 1 video. This lesson is basically a big introduction to what Unit 7 is all about, which is circles. So we're going to talk through some terminology and some of the vocabulary and kind of get you guys started on this. So first things first, a circle is, by its definition, the set of points that are the same distance away from a center point. So this point would be our center, and I were to measure, some distance away, and then I did that again, and I do that again, and I keep doing that, and I find every point that is this distance away from there, then I would get what we have that is a circle, which is just all of those points lined up together. So a circle is all the points that are the same distance away from some central point. So that's my best attempt at a circle there. But all of the points around the circle are the same distance from this point, which we call C, or the center. So that's kind of the first main idea here, is that a circle is made up of those points the same distance away from the center. We have some names for some different distances within a circle. The first main thing that we have is we have the measurement for the distance that we use to measure. So this distance that we used to originally measure the circle, we call the radius. Probably the most important kind of value within a circle is going to be that radius value. And then we also have the distance that goes all the way through the circle from one end to the other through that center point. And we call that the d, or the diameter. So within a circle, we have these values. We have the radius and we have the diameter. And the diameter is exactly twice as long as the radius. It's made up of two different radii, the one that goes to one edge and then in the opposite direction to the other edge. The distance around the outside of the circle, the actual distance, if we were to measure this, is what we call the circumference. The circumference is the distance around the circle. And so within the concept of circles, we have this really important value that you've probably heard of, and that is the value pi. Okay. So pi is a way of talking about the relationship between the circumference and the diameter of a circle. So the definition of pi is that pi is the ratio of the radius, nope, not the radius, the diameter of a circle. And I just said it backwards, so we're going to switch this around. It's a ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. In other words, if I take the distance around the circle you see here in blue and I divide it by the orange, the diameter, I get a value of pi. And pi has an approximate value of 3.14, and then that decimal continues to go on and on. Another way of expressing pi you see often is 22 divided by 7, but again, that is an approximation, meaning that is not the exact value of pi. We don't actually know the exact value of pi, but this is kind of just a summary of what you need to know about pi. So because of this relationship between the diameter and the radius, or so the diameter and the circumference, the formulas that we use when we find the circumference and area of pi of a circle are going to incorporate these numbers. So the circumference of a circle has a value of 2 times pi times the radius, also known as pi times the diameter. the area of a circle, so that's the circumference, the area of a circle has a formula of pi times r squared. So those are the two big formulas that you're going to need to know in this unit. And so let's take an example of each. And let's say I have a circle, and it has a radius of 6 centimeters. Okay, r equals 6 centimeters. So what would be the circumference and area of that circle? Well, the circumference formula says we do 2 times pi times the radius, which is 6. It's coming from here. Now, this is an important thing. You probably have mostly done pi as 3.14 when you're doing a calculation. But actually, we're going to make a practice of doing it two ways. The first way is we are going to write it in what we call terms of pi. So the first way to express this answer is going to be to type or to write 12 pi. And then if you wanted to find an approximate answer, you could go over to a calculator and you could type in 12 times pi in the calculator. 12 pi, and you get 37.699. Okay, so that would be an approximate answer. But this is actually the preferred way of writing the answer because it isn't an estimation, it's an exact answer. All right, so that's what we do for circumference. 2 times pi times the radius, which in this case is 6. And then for the area, we're going to do pi times the radius squared. We're at 6 squared. 6 squared means 6 times 6, which is 36 pi. Again, that's the preferred answer. But if we wanted to approximate, we could. .36 pi is 113.09. And so that would be the approximate answer. So this is a lot of what you're going to have to do in this lesson. But then the next kind of big thing that they introduce is looking at different relationships between circles. So when circles like kind of like interact with each other or intersect or different things like that. So let's talk about the different ways that we might see that come into play. So pairs of circles is kind of the next big concept we need to look at. So what are the different ways that circles can be related to each other? Okay, so we're just going to talk through some of the basic concepts. The first way is just that they can be congruent. You should already know what congruent means. In geometry, congruent means that two things are the same size and same shape. So for circles to be congruent, we're saying that they have the same radius. Now, I know my drawings are a little strange, but if this is circle A and this is circle B, and both have a radius of 5, then we would say that circle A is congruent to circle B. Those are examples of congruent circles. Okay? So that's one circle relationship. We also have a concept called concentric. Concentric means they have the same center, concentric, with center. So the centers are with each other. Okay? So concentric looks like this. They both have the same center. One might be this size and one might be this size. And so one has a radius of maybe 4 and the other one has a radius of 9 or whatever. So the two circles are concentric. Okay? So concentric means they share a center. The other way that circles can be related to each other is that they can be tangent to one another. Let's talk about what that means. Tangent can look one of two ways. A tangent line is a line that just touches at one place. So tangent circles are going to be circles that just touch at one place. Obviously, we haven't looked at circles that intersect. That's not really one of the options that they focus on. But there are two ways that circles can be tangent. They can be externally tangent, or they can be internally tangent. And it really just is talking about where the circles are located in relationship to one another. Externally tangent circles would be circles, I'll do my best here to draw this. Whoa, I am struggling to draw circles today. Let's try this again. Okay, so these two circles would be externally tangent because they cross at just one point right there, versus internally tangent circles, which would be like you have a circle like this, and then you have another circle that's inside of it that really just crosses at that single point. Let's go ahead and take this guy and move him into the position. There we go. Much better. So these circles just cross at this single point right here on the edge of the circle, and they are going to be internally tangent. You have more diagram examples of that in the lesson. All right, so that's basically the terminology that you need to have from this lesson. And then the last thing is how to express the formula for circles when you're actually looking at them in a coordinate plane. Okay, so I'm going to write down the formula. I'm going to explain what the parts of the formula mean. So this is the standard form equation for circles. Standard form equation for circles is the following: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And in that, h and k are the coordinates, the x and y coordinates of the center. And r is obviously the radius, same letter we used above. So what does this look like? Let's walk through a few different examples. So I'll just make up a couple. Let's say I have the following. X plus, let's try minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 25. So what I need to be recognizing is that I need to be able to look at this equation and identify the center and the radius based on the information given. So I can see that x minus h is x minus 2. That means that h is 2. So the center has an x value of 2. And since it's y minus 1 and it was y minus k, then the center has a x value, a y value of 1. So the center would be 2, 1, and the radius, because the formula says r squared, and we have 25, then the radius would be 5, because 5 squared gives me 25, and the radius squared is what's in that position. So this would be the values for that circle. So let's look at what the graph looks like. And what's cool